Hello everybody, welcome back to Sprueverse, my scale model universe, people of Earth. This is part 2 of Build Kraken II from the motion picture Innerspace, starring Dennis Quaid, directed by Joe Dante, produced by Steven Spielberg. A credit roll that I actually got right. Amazing. Okay, thank you all so much for your wonderful comments on part 1. I'm glad you're enjoying this build. It's a fun build. And if you want to get these STL files, Golden Armor has them. Christoph will be happy to sell them to you. And as I mentioned, I'm working on a source for actually printing files for you if you don't have a 3D printer. So I'm hoping by the time this is in the can, I can put that information in the description below. If I can't, just, you know, don't worry about it. If you still are interested, just drop me an email and I will make every effort to keep you guys updated on this. I am trying because between all of this and, of course, my dear friends at 3D Fig Lab who have gone into high gear yet again and are working on a base for this, and we'll have a couple of options, and I'm pretty excited about sharing those with you. I haven't seen the files yet and haven't printed anything, but we're going to have a base for this, which means that I don't have to start drilling plugs into the model. We're going to actually be able to plug into the base and drop this in. It'll either be interior of the human body display, or it will be in its lab before it is micro miniaturized. Don't know, haven't decided. Maybe we'll look at both together on this build up and you know, talk about the pros and cons of both. But anyway, we're back on the bench, and I was in the process of gacking up the back wall, which I thought I was gonna just say, hey, look at my beautiful back wall. Nay, nay. I have decided we're going to put this together on the show. Why not? You know, let's play together on the bench. This is the back wall of the interior of the Kraken II. As I mentioned in part 1, we're going to work on the interior, get all that wiring in, make sure it's all where it needs to be. Then we're going to go to the outside. The reason why I'm doing that is because I have got a lot of gack that has to go on the outside of this thing, and I have a feeling I'm going to be flipping it up, you know, on its butt many times just to make sure that I'm getting this correct. And I also want to get the detailing in there, some washes and everything else. And the more gack that's on it, the harder it is to get in the crooks and crevices and make it look good. Or is that cracks and crevices? Okay. So here's what I've got. This is the rear wall, and what I've done is I've painted up this tank here, which I'm thinking is either it's either hydrogen or some kind of gas. I think it's a noble gas. It's not oxygen. That's what I'm going with. Now, if you don't know what noble gases are, then you didn't tune in to the World of Wayne Christmas quiz, because that's how I found out about noble gases. You see, I'm smarter because of the Great Wayne Green. Okay, here is some other tanks. I think these might be oxygen, but I've painted these in a green, just to get, again, some color in this, because it's all metals. It's all silvers and metals. I've added, as we know, this copper tape to what I think is some kind of lithium ion reverse osmosis hydraulic nanofeeder. Don't ask me to say that again. I can only make things up once. Then there's a couple of these other packs here. Now, as you'll notice, all these parts are loose. But it's time now for us to glue them down. Now, since this is resin on resin, my best way of gluing these is with CA. A little dab will do ya, but we're ready to go down. So I'm going to get some around the holes, let it pour into the holes like this, Get a little here. Now you might be saying to yourself, Phil, those surfaces are full of paint. Well, that is true. But you know what? This isn't getting yanked, and already that's gone off. It's gone. Now, even though that's paint to paint, there's nothing to rip it off or make it fall off. So we should be fine. And if we're not fine, I'll let you know in 10 years. How about that? You stick around, and in 10 years, if it's fallen off, I'll let you know. All right. So now what I did was, by the way, let me punch out for a second and explain. I have test fitted this into the interior. I was struggling with how to get the angle right. I thought that, and I'll show you in a second, there are some support angles on the back of this that I thought showed you how it was supposed to go in. But that's not correct. The easiest way to actually install this is to put it into the roof of the model. I'll show you when we go to install it. We'll be there for that, I think. The fits are really nice and tight. There isn't much you need to do. But I've test fitted it, and I did a dress rehearsal, so I know how it goes in. The nice thing about that is you don't need to put glue on any of the surfaces before you put it in. It's a friction fit, and then we'll just put some CA behind that, let it seep in, and from the capillary action of that with a little zip kicker, it's not going to go anywhere. But I did do some test fitting just because I wanted to make sure that when I install this, that nothing was actually going to get stuck. Okay, back to the action. So just dropping all these pieces in. And then we can have some fun with it. I love gackage. I love gackage, and I love distressing things. Just gives me so much joy. It's just part of, I don't know why, but it's just always been a part of the hobby that I have always loved. Distressing things and everything else. Oh, come on. Here we go. Just make sure those are nice and straight, and they are. And I got 2 more pieces to go here, and then we are locked and loaded. This looks like some kind of a transformer, and this looks like a very serious piece of business. And there we go. Okay, so those are in. And so what I'm going to do now is just have some fun. I've got all kinds of stuff in front of me here. And I thought the first thing I would start with are these little knobs here. Let me get myself a little container to put all of my little bits in, because I've been pulling stuff from all kinds of places, and of course, typical me, I will, play like this, and then when it comes time to looking for something, I've either flicked it, lost it, or moved something, and I don't know where to look for it. So, but anyway, this is a little cup full of watch parts. I'm a huge fan of watch parts, and we're going to find a place for all of this, hopefully. If we don't, that's okay. We've got things we can use and things we don't have to use. Let me pull this down a little bit just so it's in frame, because the first thing we're working on are these 3 connector points. And I've got these cables, and what these cables are is they are from a test board, you know, the little sandwich boards. I've cut the pins off of one end, but they make fantastic hoses. And so what I am going to do is get myself some zip kicker. Sorry about the I'm gonna just drop a little bit of zip kicker on these hosage ends. Then I'm gonna get myself a little piece of plastic to put some gluage down. There we go. Okay, so let's see here if this behaves. There we go. Bingo. All right, we'll lay that to dry in a little bit, and we'll go to the next one. And try to center that if I can. Oh. Of course you don't want to cooperate. All right. Now this might be one of those situations where the paint is going to punish me, but it shouldn't. There we go. And what I'll do is we'll just leave this to dry. I'm not going to tug on it at all. I'm going to just let it set up, and then we'll come back to it and figure out where it goes. There we go. Now, of course, you know, this is Murphy's Law, right? I'm doing this on camera. So whenever you do anything on camera, you run the risk of nothing working, which is the story of my life. But I think we're going to be fine. I think we're going to be fine. We're not going to freak out and panic like I usually do. But I do that off camera. I'm very good at that. I throw things, I cuss, I yell, I bitch, I complain. Okay, that's going to work out really well. Now, I'm just going to let those set up a little bit, and we might come back to that in a second. Now, I've got this ribbon wire here, and what I've done is I pre-cut this ribbon wire so that it can die into the back of this, and I made it a little proud, so I'm gonna just trim this just a hair like that, so that there. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna just put a little bit of glue on the back of this here, and then I'm gonna just lay that down. And I like it on one end. I don't like it in the center, so that's kind of cool. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little dab on the ends of this ribbon wire here, and then I'm going to just push that into position. Now I've given it some height here, just a little bit of height, because that way it's not, it has a little depth to it. So that's looking good. I like that. Now that gives me an opportunity right here to add something else, like a pipe or something, because what I like to do is when I add things, if you put things, in my opinion, off-centered a little bit, and then you add some other things, it doesn't look, you know, I'm fighting with the chair. Have you noticed that? Okay, I noticed that it makes things feel a little more sort of dynamic and thought through. So, okay. So the next thing I want to do is I want to work on these oxygen bottles right here. And what I want to do with these oxygen bottles is I want to run, I've got some black wire here. And I'm going to use that for my oxygen bottles. But my oxygen bottles are going to come around this corner and they're going to die down here somewhere. But I thought it might be fun for them to die into something that looks like it's going somewhere else. So I've got this wonderful. I've got choices really. I can go with a with a circle like that. Because wouldn't it be nice if it was in camera? Okay, there we go. I can either go with a circle like that, or I can go with a square like that. I think in this particular instance, I'm going to go with the square. Now, the thing of it is if I push that up a little bit, like that. Actually, if I put it there, then what happens is when I go to put my hose in, my hose has got somewhere to go. It's going to die into there, and that can pretend like it's gone out of the back. The reason why I like that rather than drilling a whole bunch of holes into this thing is because I just feel that that doesn't look very, very real. Okay, so I'm going to just get a little bit of CA on this, and I'm going to drop it right there. That went off already. Isn't that insane? So if you don't have it at the right angle, it's going to live where it lives, but that's okay. Believe me, it's so far down that it isn't going to matter. Okay, I don't want to take too much of this wire, but then I also don't want to waste it either. Not running off at the mouth right now because chewing gum and doing this at the same time are not exactly my idea of a good time. Okay, that bit nicely. You can feel it bite and then you feel it pull away. That's the paint. So we just dab it back and we'll be fine. Just let that set for a second. That's good. And then I'm gonna, oh no, that snapped. That's okay. It's okay. Let me do this again. Let me do this again. Now I know all of you over there going, well, if you had a clean surface and you weren't trying to put it on a painted surface, you wouldn't have the bloody problem, would you? Well, you're all right. You're all correct. If this was a little more front and center, I might care, but I think I should be fine. Okay, and let me do one more of these, and then I can let these dry a little bit. We'll get this in here. Just get a nice dab on there. Now you can always hit this if you've got a little bit of shine from this glue surface. You can always hit that with a little bit of matte and you should be fine. shouldn't be a problem. Okay. All right. Now, just going to let that set up for just a second here. Just fiddling with this little upstage piece off camera here because it popped off. Okay, there we go. Okay. Now I'm gonna get myself a little toothpick here, and I'm gonna hit these with just a little more glue, just to make sure that that stays down. Do the same there and the same there, and then I'll just touch that with a little kicker. Okay, should be good to go. That's looking good. Don't you love the well, I'm in complete shadow here. It's so weird. All right, everything is so like gone into darkness here. Like, hey, that is so weird. Okay, don't worry. I'm gonna fix the problem. There we go. Aha! Aha! Cameras can now shut up, compressor. Cameras can now do their thing. So you can see how much fun this is to gack things up. We've been playing gack up for 20 minutes of this video. See, this is what can happen when you just get lost. Before we cut, because I'm going to carry on, you don't need to see an hour. Some guys will go, yeah, we do. I go, no, you can see what I'm doing. It'll be fun to see the finished results. But before we go, I wanted to just wanted to show you this. This is a view of the Kraken in the lab before it was miniaturized. And this is the base that we're working on. Kind of fun. It's got that wonderful foiled back. You don't see an awful lot, but it sits in this kind of interesting half shell before he climbs in. So it's helpful, but you can see how mono it is. It's like there's a yellow oxygen tank or tank on the outside and some red tips to the to what looks like more tanks on the back. But for the most part, it's just a world of aluminums and metals and steels. So I am having fun playing with all those different textures and colors, and by varying everything and not just making it mono, hopefully everything will blend together. Okay, I'm going to keep gacking, and we'll show you the finished result before we move on to the next segment. Sometimes you got to know when to stop. I think I'm going to stop, and I'll explain why. But here it is, and it's looking sufficiently gacked up. I'm super happy with it, and we've got all the hoses connected to things. Lots of fun. I love this piece here. This was just a piece of Greeblie that I had. I want to show you something and explain what I'm doing here. So this is the top, and if you notice underneath here, there's some keys, and they're here, and here. And what I've discovered is the easiest way to install the rear wall is to get it lined up and push it up. It's pretty snug, but it works, and it sits, and there you go, and it's in. And what I like about that is you can see stuff through the windows. And I've got this port opening now, and I'll show you that. I've got a hinge on the top of the access port, and this is all hinged, so you can I can leave this up or down. And the nice thing about that is whoa! The nice thing about that is it's not glued down. No. The nice thing about that is when I tip it up to camera and I open the door, you can see down inside. So you'll see stuff. So that's kind of fun. Lots of stuff going on. And so I'm going to remove that for just a second so I don't have an accident. But you can see, if I hold this to camera, I'm trying to think the best way to do this. Oh, that's good. Anyway, you can see there's all kinds of stuff going on. You won't be able to see an awful lot because, unfortunately, once the chair goes in, a good portion of all of this in the center is going to disappear. But there's enough separation between the rear wall and the seat that it should work out really well. But I'm super happy with that, and there's no reason for that to come out. It can live there now, and there's no reason to remove it again. It's in perfectly, and I could not be happier with that. I'll take a couple of pictures of the step-by-step progression of it all and put those on my Instagram page. But yeah, that worked out really well. Okay, next step is to actually install the inside pieces and yeah, the inside side walls, and the glass will have to go in because that'll be the final thing before it goes down. One other thing I want to talk about, don't go away, is I created, which of course I here it is. Did you miss me? Sorry about that. I wasn't ready. Okay, what I did was I got some 8050 SMD tape. And what we've got going on here is underneath, and I've showed you this before, there's this piece, and it's supposed to be a light, and it's supposed to, because that went down on the floor. It's supposed to sit right here. Now, if you wanted to, and you certainly could, you would print that. The teeth weren't in properly. You would print that in clear. You would drill into the back, and you could get some SMD Pico chips in there and run wires. There's plenty of reason for wires to exist, so you don't even have to worry about hiding them. And you could light that. But since I'm not going to be pulling this in and out, you won't see this part. There's no reason for it. So I'm substituting it for this SMD tape. And I'm going to lay that down right there. It would help if you could see it, wouldn't it? Hang on. There you go. So I'm going to lay my SMD tape down. Now it doesn't curve very well, but we can get a little bit of a bend out of it, and we'll glue that in there, and that will provide some nice ambient light. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install that. I have to be a little gingerly about that. I have to be careful, but I'm going to install that right now. And then we'll put some light on it, and we'll take a look at what that looks like. Okay, I put just a little bit of bend in the tape because it's so thin. And it's got a very sort of straight it's got copper running through it. It's not as rigid as the bigger tapes. So if you want to do a little bit of curving to it, you certainly can. But anyway, that's in, and it's lit up. Now, what I love about this tape is when you turn this over, it's actually creating its own light. And if I think it's hard to tell, but you can't really see. But I promise you, it's I'm trying to show you what it's doing, but it's not. But anyway, oh, I know what to do. Hang on. I know what I can do. I can get Mr. Quaid in his chair and stick him in here, and you can see that he's got a little bit of light on his face. Let's see. No, you're not going to be able to tell. It's all too washed out. I don't know why I'm bothering. It's one of those, hey, it looks awesome over here. But I promise you, before we, when we do our finals and you look, I promise you'll be able to see that it's actually shedding some light down in here. In fact, I have an idea. Let's see. No, you're not gonna be able to tell. But anyway, the point is, it's working. So, and the nice thing about it is I can take these wires now, and I'm going to just feed them along around the sides and then down the back here. There's no reason to have to apologize for them or hide them. I'm just going to be neat about putting them down, and that'll work really well. Anyway, so that's a result. I'm gonna do a little more detail on the sides after I put the side panels in. We'll take a look at all of this finals before we put it down, so you can see what it looks like. Okay. There's an awful lot of detail work to this kit. It's interesting. If you heard me talk about this at the very beginning of this, it's like how long it took me to actually print this, and you start to realize how many pieces there are to actually go through, prime, sand, clean up, make sure they're good to go. Then they get a coat of paint. And what I realized with this kit is it's an awful lot of just silvers and metals and grays, and I've been working really hard to try and break that up with as many different colors as I can. So I'm using various different silvers and aluminums and chromes, so that when it all comes together and it's got all of its hosage and pipes and everything on it, it should look pretty cool. But I guess you'll be the judge of that, right? Okay, so these are the side pod engines right here that I've been working on, and what I did with these was I used something called bare metal silver, and I deliberately left some shadowing here because these things of beauty, you don't see an awful lot of them, and they sit on the sides of the model, and I wanted them to look, or I wanted them to have a contrasting look to them. But they're ready to go together now, and so I've got to drop in my fan blades like this, and so I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Why not? I mean, there's no reason not to. So I'll get a little drop of the old glue on there, and then we'll drop this in and just make sure that looks good. Happy with that. I'll get these two out of the way. These are for the bottom of it. So I'll do both tops, and then we'll do both bottoms. I just noticed I've got a bit of schmutz on this one that didn't get cleaned off. There we go. I use a little drop of CA glue on a bamboo stick to glue, to hold these while I'm gluing them, and sometimes I forget to clean off the bottom, but there we go. So that's the top of this, looking pretty good. And then what you do is you turn it over, and then you take this funnel here, and everything is beautifully designed, and that just drops in the bottom of this like that, nice and flush. We'll leave that for a second, and we'll do the other one. And that's about it for sort of the basic shape. Now what I've got to do is, as I always like to do, is I like to just sort of get it all together, and then we'll look at if what it needs, airbrushing or some details or what have you. But I think that is ready to go. And the thing about it is this is the bottom. So unless it's raised off the ground that quite a bit, sadly you won't see a lot of this detail, but I've got a plan for that. But I'm not, maybe down the road there's a couple of ways to actually display this model, and I'll talk about that in a second. Okay, I'm going to set these aside so that we can let them dry. I'll just put those over there, and we will, actually I should be tipping these down so all the weight's on the bottom. Idiot child. Okay, that's a weird reference, idiot child. When I was in school in Southend in Essex, England, I had an English teacher, Mr. Thompson. He used to call me idiot child. I used to speak for the entire class. It used to make him crazy. He used to come up, used to grab me by the sideburns, pull me up. It was so painful. And he used to whisper in my ear, "Don't speak, idiot child." Right? These poor teachers, I mean, can you only imagine the insanity of what they had to deal with? Looking back on it now, if I could ever see him again, I'd say thank you and bless you for being so, wanting to deal with the insanity of a 10-year-old. But there you go. Okay, the next thing up is the lighting array for the for the undercarriage. It's three lights. Here they are, and what I have to do is I have to get my wire in here, and I have to set these up, and then I have to drop them into these pre-punched, they're all pre-punched printed holes, and that's going to create the array. And then I've got to run all these cables together, which I will. And what I will do with these is, when everything is together, I'll do what I always do. I did this on the hopper. I'll take a long piece of shrink wrap tubing, and I will run it the length of the wire. So you don't see this red and white wire, you're going to see just black. Now you certainly could leave these cables out because there's nothing wrong with that, but it's my choice just to give it a little more beef. So what I've done is I've added a resistor to these 4.8 top hat LEDs in white. There's 3 lights, there's a cone. Here's the cone, and this will create lovely reflection, and the light is going to sit in the back, and this is what you see. That's what you'll see. So what I have to do is I have to get these glued in, and I have to get them fed through these through these parts. So what I'm going to do is, and these are all they're pre-punched holes that are already in the print. That's the beauty of this. You don't have to drill anything. They thought on this model especially, and I have to say, it's one of the few occasions where a modeler is designing and printing these. So Chris over at Golden Armor, they're modelers, and they know what it takes to put a kit together. And they've also thought about, how you're going to light this, and that is really greatly appreciated. So what I did was I made this pretty snug, so it sits in the bottom nicely like this, and this is what the finished piece looks like. I haven't glued that in yet, but that's what the finished piece looks like, and it will be lit. So I've got to do 3 of those, and I've got a piece of brass rod here now, and that will just slide through like this, and that will hold everything together, and then I'll put just a touch of glue on that, so these can be adjusted if you want to. What I found is it's better to lock these in place, because that way you can adjust exactly where you want them, and then you lock them in place so that you get the light hits exactly where it needs to hit. I'm not a big fan of, isn't that clever, it swivels, isn't that clever? I'm not a big fan of that. Again, my models I don't think of as toys. They're pieces of art to be looked at, not touched. I don't know, I'm just goofy that way. I don't want anybody touching the model, because inevitably they have to touch it. I don't know what people's inclination is. Oh, I've got to touch. No, you don't have to touch. You can look. You don't have to touch. When they touch, what happens? Something breaks. Happens. It's classic. Oh, sorry. Yeah. The problem is to go back and fix that is not that easy sometimes. We all know. It's not a dub of glue and it's done. No, he's got to be cleaned off and sanded and... Sorry, I had to get that out of my system. Okay, so I've got my light array I'm going to put together. You can see me doing that, and that's fun. I've got 3 of those to do. And then this is the pack that belongs on the... It belongs on the back of the rear of the top of the pod, and it's in black right now because rather than paint the whole thing silver again, I'm going to dry brush and paint this by hand, because there's lots of opportunity here to really have fun with this and get some detail out of it and some contrast too. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to dry brush that. And so we'll have those elements finished, and we're just chipping away at it. Now, while I'm in this moment in time, I want to talk briefly about this base that is printing right now. So it's a big deal because it's a big thing. It's a thing of beauty, and this is from my dear friends over at 3D Fig Lab. And they have designed and sent me the STL files for this. They sent me two files, one of the lab floor where it sort of is sitting when we first meet the Kraken II. And then I asked them to design something as if it was on the interior of the human body. And they cleverly designed this sort of base that looks like the cell wall of an organ. It's brilliant. You could print it in clear and just go to town with it. I mean, you could light it from underneath. You could have all kinds of fun with it. You can add different elements to it. You could put the Kraken on an angle as if it's going through this thing. I mean, it would look spectacular. But due to real estate concerns, I think I'm sticking with just the basic base. But let me show you what they designed, because it's really cool. Here it is. And what you'll notice is that it's sitting on the floor of the laboratory, and it's got that rear wall that's got all of the grids in it. Now in the film, those side panels in the rear of that wall have gold foil on them, and so that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be putting some foil on there and making sure that it's gold. There is an opportunity to get some light back there for sure, but what I'm most grateful for is the fact that I can now just drop a single wire into the floor and off you go, and then we'll maybe put this on just a slightly raised platform so that I've got some place to hide my my power cord, or I could just plug it into the back. I could do that as well. That's probably a better way to go. It's a cleaner way to go. That way I don't have any large umbilical cord or anything, and I don't have to worry about a battery, because I think I'm gonna plug this into a wall unit just because of the amount of I'm using some SMDs, I'm using LEDs, I'm using all kinds of things, and I just find it's a cleaner way to create a more stable power base to the model. So that's exciting. That's on the printer. I'm working on the back part, and then we'll work on the floor. So we'll have that for this update. I'm pretty excited about that. For you, it'll be in a segment or two. For me, it's going to be a few days, but that's the beauty of this. Okay, I'm going to go to work dry brushing this unit that goes on the back of the model, and then I'll show you that when that's finished, and we'll take a look at the this array when that's finished and all put together, and I'll show you that lit. It's always a good feeling when you start to put some elements together that belong together, and for me anyway, it's a lot of fun. I had to juggle with this just a little bit. It is a little tricky. Nothing is glued down, nothing is final, but I just wanted to show you what this looked like so that you can see my progress as I make the progress. So here are the lights as they where in their location. Now what happens is there's a basket that lives here like this. There's this basket that lives here, and the idea is that these sort of shine up in front of it here. Now this is obviously upside down, but this basket looks very cool living there like that. So that's basically what has to happen there. And then if you'll notice on the back here, nothing is finished, but I've got some shrink wrap that I'm using as hose, and it's working really well. I'm going to drill a location hole here and drop the wire in, feed this in, and then I'm going to permanently install these, because the nice thing about this is they're in a really they're in the right position, and they can't get hurt, they can't get snapped or knocked, because I've got all this protection on the outside. So that will sort of allow me to start putting some other elements in the bottom here and finishing it. There is one other set of lights that have got to come through on the other side, on the back side here where I'm pointing. So I haven't done those yet, but I'll work on those. There's two lights. There's two lights that are going to shoot out the back, and so that's gonna take care of that. And then there's a couple of large tanks that sit here, and those are the bottom elements. But there's some hoses I want to add even though you won't see an awful lot of this, it's going to need all those details finessed and finished, because you'll see parts of it. So I just want to make sure that when I'm working on the working on the back here, and I'm getting all the hoses in, that everything looks like it's it should be. And of course, obviously, I will tuck these hoses in a little nicer, and get them all sort of cleaned up. But I just wanted to show you what the potential here is, and it's really coming together. So that's a lot of fun to get some lights sort of pseudo put together. They're nice and bright. They're working really well. There's going to be quite a lot of light on this, actually. So if you wanted to hang it or set it up on some kind of an angle, that's probably a better way to actually display this. But, again, when you've got real estate issues like I do, I can't really go to town on things. A couple of things I do, but not everything. Okay, so that is the front-facing floods are installed, but not wired up and not finished. But this is how the basic installation looks. Okay. So been working on the undercarriage a little bit, and one of the things I like to do as I go is do a little bit of weathering. So I've started to do a little bit of experimentation here with some splatter, just a little bit of black splatter, nothing too crazy. Again, I'm going to go back through all of this with an airbrush just to sort of blend everything together, but crudely everything is coming together. And we've got our lights installed now, and I've added my heat shrink here, and I've connected it, and I've used a little bit of the liquid black electrical tape, which is really handy if you are attaching hoses to things and you need everything to look finished. So that's all drying in place, but it blends everything together and ties it nicely. Light going into the floor. These two tanks are in. I don't know about a hose on this end yet, but everything is in, and that reveals this here. Now the wonderful thing about all this wiring is that there's a chase line here cut into, well, pre-cut into the floor, so you don't have to worry about having to figure all that out. It was all done for you, and it beautifully, as you can see, sits back here. So all of this wiring is going to go into here. So the nice thing about that is I now know how much wire I need here, so I can do a little snippage, and I can save this for another moment in time here, because I'm sure I'll be using it. So that means I know exactly where all this goes. I've still got some light that I have to get into the back here. There's still some wire that has to be chased down. There's a wire from behind the wall on the top that has to come in here, and then everything will go into the back, and then I'll have one wire that drops out to power. That'll be perfect. It means I've just got one line going in, and I can determine where that's going to go in here. It can go anywhere I want, really, but if I can keep it in this center chase line, everything will work out really well. And then I can start assembling the interior of this cockpit. That's pretty exciting, because once that's done, I can really focus on the exterior details, which means we're getting ever so close. And I'm hoping, as I'm recording this, my printer is printing the rear wall of the base. Assuming I don't have a failed print, I've checked everything. Resin is the right temperature. My FEP is clean. I've got a good mix on my resin. So I've done everything I can to make sure I get a good print. Because if I get a good print, then we've got something to show you of how this is going to go. But I think you'll agree that this is really, it's a heft. I mean, you can see the size of this. I mean, this is really a studio scale piece. So really happy with the way this is coming together. It's great fun. And I think everything is going well. Obviously, as I look at it, I've got lots of weathering to do and some, I want to put in some weathering and some aging and stuff like that. I don't want it to be pristine, but it's weird looking at the production model of this miniaturized, before it's miniaturized. It's pretty pristine, but I think that would have been typical for the day. I don't think they would have thought a lot about that. Or on the other hand, they could have thought to themselves, well, if if you're only going to ever miniaturize this thing and put it into human beings or live animals or whatever you're going to put it into, you're going to have a relatively clean experience. You're not going to have a dirty experience. Although, I don't know, I mean, I don't know. There's all kinds of different. Well, I don't want to start talking about bodily functions, but I think you get the idea. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I've got to tape off these tanks, which I've painted in chrome, and the ends here. I don't know why we're doing this close. I don't know why we're doing that. There we go. The ends here have to be red. They don't have to be red, but I'm going to make them red because we're desperate for color, and that's the call out on everything I'm looking at is red. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to paint these red. So that's what we'll do. And then once we've got those dry and ready to go, I think they can be installed, because I don't want to start weathering until everything is installed. I want to make sure that my weathering on this is consistent. And I'm going to be super light. I'm not going to go crazy with the weathering. But and then I have to start taking a closer look at hosage, because there's definitely hoses that are going to be coming out of things. And I need to make sure I have a basic understanding of what I need, so that I can figure out if I have what I need or whether or not I need to order it. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think I should be able to do it with shrink tubing. So anyway, let's get some red on these tanks. My caps to these exterior tanks are now red, so that's a good thing. I had just a little bit of cleanup I was doing there, but they're done. So they're going to, everything's going to need to get a coat to seal it. It's interesting because I have to think about what I'm sealing it with. There's no decals on this thing, but I could put a few. I've got some caution no step, perhaps around the top of the perhaps around the top of the hatch. I couldn't find the word hatch in this puerile brain of mine, but I found it. It came eventually. Oh, hatch. Because if I'm going to seal everything, and then the question is, does it get a satin or a matte? Depending on what you want this to look like. It is supposed to be shiny metal, so maybe I'll go with a satin. But we are really progressing. The next thing I'm going to be doing is looking at where hoses need to be on the exterior, and we'll install those. So I've been working away on details, painting details, just getting things sort of where I want them. And again, with this particular model, it's really interesting. It's just a world of of grays and silvers, as I said. But I've been trying to use as many different variations of colors as I can, primarily because when you look at the model, it doesn't look monotone. It looks like things are going on, and hopefully that's how it'll register when we look at the final product. I'm getting all the lights together. I've been doing very well with that. This is the last set I put together here, and these are going to go on the front of the Kraken II, and I've got them in the position I want them, and then I'm locking them in. Now you certainly can, you can get this to where you can adjust them and play with the light. But again, I don't play with my models. I don't use them as toys, so I get them in the angle I want them and I lock them in. I've got wires coming out of the back. These STL files, as I mentioned, have pre-drilled holes for us. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my shrink wrap over these to look like black. They'll look like black protective cable, or pipe I should say, and I'll get the right length once these are on, and then we'll drill our hole, and then it'll look like black hoses dying into the model so that we don't see wires. You certainly could leave it that way, but I think it looks a little cleaner when you finish it with the black tubing as opposed to these. Now you could certainly wrap these. You could wrap them and then just touch them with a little bit of black paint, and that would be fine too. But again, I like the detail. I just like what you get with the heat shrink. It just looks a little more hefty, Okay. So let's jump over to the bench, and I'll show you putting one of these together, because the nice thing about these, as you can see, is you get a wheel well, and you get a nice indentation, so you get a place to sit this, and then your inside deflector, you put your light in here. Now I'm using 4.8s. They're sort of half domes. I'll show you one on the bench. And then what happens is you feed that in here, and then you feed it through, and it sits in there nicely, and then we can just sort of line that up, and away we go. Okay, let's go over to the bench. Okay, I'm working on details. I'm painting all the various different elements and getting them to where I like the way they're looking, so that we can start assembling things. And then once we get things sort of plugged into the kit or onto the model, then we can start looking at how what needs to be blended in, what's popping, what needs to be toned down. But until it's all on, you can't really tell. So that's what I've been working on. I'm also working on lights. I've been through a whole bunch of lights, and I'm really happy with where I am with that. So here's the last set I shot, or I should say I built. I don't know why I said shot, but there you go. So this is the last one I built. And then the nice thing again about these files is you're not drilling into the back. You've got the STL file has it already printed with the hole in it, and so you don't risk any damage, risk of damaging this little set back here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some shrink wrap tubing to act as my black sort of hose, and that'll come out of here, and then it'll die into the top of the model. I've put my pin through, and I've glued my pin in place. The reason why I did that is because I don't play with my models. So I get the angle that I want, and then I just lock it in place, and I did that with just a little bit of glue. So that's ready to go, and I'm super happy with those. They're all coming together quite nicely. Now I've done, let's see here, I've got 3 on the bottom already plugged in. I've got 4, 5, 6, 7 already finished. So I've just got this bar that I've got to do my 2 lights to, and then I'm finished with my lights. So here are my bells and my reflectors. And again, the nice thing about these is that your print comes with the hole already in the back for it. And then on the inside, there's a little ledge, and your deflector housing drops right into there. And so everything looks really nice and finished. And so I'm really, really happy with those. And I've been using little 4.8 half LEDs. They're like almost like a bowler hat, you know. And for those of you who don't know, Phil? What is he talking about? A bowler hat? Go look up bowler hat. It's a black hat from England. Go look it up. All right, don't look it up. Trust me. That's what it looks like. I'm sure there's another term for it, but that's what I call them. They're 4.8. Let's take a look at one on the bench. Why don't I build one? Why not? Let's go over there and build one. Okay. So what I've got here is these little. This is what I'm talking about. These are these little 4.8s, and they look like little top hats to me. And they sit inside these domes beautifully. So what I've done is, you guys all know this, so forgive me. For those of you who know, you can skip ahead. But for those of you who don't, we're having a little bit of fun here. Okay. So anode, cathode, positive, negative, right? So your positive is always the longer than your negative. So what I do is and I've been trimming these pretty tight here, but I always make sure that I've got my positive lead longer so I never forget where I am. Now I did test these to make sure they were working, and you can certainly test them again. Just get yourself a little battery and you can stick it in, and you can see that that's turning on. So that's working fine. I've got a resistor here, which, forgive me, I don't know correct, but I believe these are 150 ohm, and plenty bright for these little floodlights. And I trim them quite tight. And then what I do is I get myself a little bit of liquid solder. Now, if you don't have something like this in your kit, I recommend you get some. There's all different brands. This one's called Kester 186 soldering flux. It's a liquid flux. And it has a little dispensing tube. I just put a little bit on the top here, just a little bit. And then what I do is I take my hot soldering iron and get myself a little bit of solder, and I hold this tight against the model. Now forgive me if my hands are blocking you. I'm going to try not to, but just line this up. Now because I'm doing this on camera, and I just touch it. That's all you need to do is just touch it and let a little bit of let it run. And there you have it. And so that is on, like such. And then I get my red wire. I'll do that first. It's my red. Now I've got these leads, I'm running these leads quite long because I've got to run them through the ship, right? So that's why I'm running a little long here. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do something called tinning. And what that means is all that really means is you're going to get a little bit of solder on your wire, like that, and then a little bit of solder on your resistor. Now what that does is it makes it a lot easier for you to just sort of touch this. And usually I can wrap these around here, but today I'm not bothering. And there you go, you just touch it and your wire is on. Now I'm going to put some shrink tubing on this now to protect it. And this is the same shrink tubing that I'm going to use for my hose. I'm using it all over the I've got like a massive roll of this I found online. Quite inexpensive actually. So I'm very, very happy with that. And I just feed this through. Get it over like that. And then I'm going to hit this with a little bit of heat, just a little bit of heat, like that. And give it a little squeeze just to make sure, and we're good to go. Now I'll turn this over and we'll do the black lead. Now the black lead I do not insulate. There's no need because there's no risk of this shorting. But if I was inside a model and I had a lot of stuff around it, I would definitely insulate both sides. Definitely insulate both sides just to make sure you don't run into any kind of trouble. Okay, I wrap this around like such. Just tap it with a little bit of the flux, which makes the solder run really fast. Then you can just touch it like that and you're good to go. And that is golden. Now we'll test it and we'll see if we are good. So let me get this in camera just so that you can see that. I'll do that like that and we'll test it. They're pretty resilient. There we go. Result. Okay. So we're going to make one more of these and then we'll go over back over to the bench. So that's how I put these together. And then I just simply set these in, and they look pretty good inside. I'll show you that. That's what that looks like. And we'll feed both of these through. We'll get them installed on the bar. And before we glue anything down, we'll make sure we've got a good angle on them. And then we'll move on. So these are the front floodlights in position. And then I've got a rack that goes on here, which I'll put on before we put it in position. And then I've got the two manipulator arms that go through these side panels here. So this is going together, and I'm liking I'm liking what I've done here with this shrink tubing. It's quite effective. This is what I'm using. Just regular shrink tubing, drilled the holes, and then let it go through a little extra. And then here, what you do is with the extra you've pushed through the back here, it gives you plenty to just clean that up. And so what I like to do is just give this a little tug, and out it'll pop like that. And there you go. And that looks finished. Very nice. Oh, I lost my power. Hang on. Got too much going on here. There we go. Nice and bright. They'll work really well. That is a result. Super happy with that. Okay, so that is all my lights completed, not installed, but completed. So now what I'm going to do is I need to figure out, I've got some, well, you'll see. Let me show you in just a second. Let me set up for it and I'll show you what I'm trying to figure out. Well, I'm going to continue to pour through the instructions that I got from Christoph. I'm going to go through everything and see if there's anything that outlines hoses. But I haven't seen anything yet, but I'm going to continue to look. So here's a manipulator arm right here. And it's connected by a little piece of brass rod that I've put in it. Now I'm going to, once I figure out what the resting position is, I'm going to lock this in. I'm not going to allow this to be free. Again, I don't play with my models, they're not toys, so I'll find out what the correct angle is. Now what you're supposed to do here is you're supposed to be able to put this is the piece that plugs in. It plugs into this square here, like that. That's how it plugs in. And then the manipulator arm with another piece of rod is going to connect to that. It's going to connect to that, looking like that. And then, near as I can tell, these hoses appear to be dying either into this manipulator arm or somewhere around here. This is the image that I've pulled up and found. And you'll notice that, let me see if I can get us a little, zoom in a little bit here. There, that's better. You'll notice that it appears as though they're dying into something. It looks like the manipulator arm, although it's interesting because the front the front basket doesn't appear to be there, and if it is, it's hard to tell in this angle. But this is the best I've got. But it's very hard for me to tell where those hoses are actually dying into. So I'm sort of at a bit of a loss. I'm guessing. I'm going to continue to work on it, but definitely the 4 hoses will come out. And I've got again, I'm going to be using my shrink tubing here, which is a really nice, and it'll connect in like that. And that'll work really well. And I'll connect it to this with a little piece of my brass rod here. So that's how that will go together. So now I just have to figure out where they're dying into, because if I don't, it's going to look really stupid. So that is what I'm working on at the moment. So if I'm just going to take my time here. The first thing I'm going to do most likely is install this front light here, and get my wire drilled so I can run this into the back, and then that will come around and it will drop into the floor here, where the rest of my wires are going. So it's got to come through here, and it's got to drop into the floor. Now I've got a base plate for that, which is here, and it drops in like this, just like that. So, and then my steering, my seat goes here, my pedals go here. So I suspect what I'm going to do is have to run some kind of a wire around here, or just drill something right here, because this didn't get a chase wire, but that's okay because everything will be cabled, so it'll look like it's meant to belong. So I've got to work on that. So I've got these hoses I'm working on. I've got my front lights, my bar, my bar. Well, actually, there's not a bar. The bar goes in the back, so that's going to be fine. I've got lights for the back here, the back bar, and that's this piece that I just created. And I believe that's going to sit. I think it's going to sit like that. Although, no, it definitely goes in the back. I don't know why I'm farting around with that, but it goes right there. That's where it goes. So those are the rear lights, and then I've got my top lights, and then I've got one headlight. And that's the lights. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8, 9. So there's 9 lights. Looking pretty good. Okay. As you can see, as you can see, lots of details. You went to black for a second, but we're back. Lots of details that I'm working on. So I'm going to try and get this hose figured out, because I don't know if I need to drill into this. I don't know what I'm doing yet, so I have to figure out where those hoses go. I don't want to drill into this if I don't have to, and certainly this manipulator arm, there's no pegs on it, so I'm going to go back through all of the details that I have and see if I can't get an answer. Maybe I'll even sort of reach out to some of my more engineering type friends and see if they can help me locate it. But anyway, I'm going to do that right now, and we'll report back. So in fact, I have made a boo-boo, and I've not made a mistake that can't be corrected. I'm deficient in my manipulator arms. There's 2 sets. There's a front left and right and a rear left and right, and I had only printed one left front and one front rear. No, one front left and one rear right. Okay, that's what I had done. Now, according to the all of the details that I've got, and it comes with an awful lot of detail. The cables die into this manipulator arm on the front with the shorter setup here. So there's supposed to be 1, 2, 3, 4 receptors for these. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to clean this up. I'm going to have to drill into this, and my cables will connect up. So I'm going to have to put 4 little pegs in here because they don't come with it. So, and the shorter arms belong on the front of the Kraken, and the longer connector joints from the ball joint belong on the back. So these all have to be cleaned up, and I'm going to have to print a couple more. Can you believe that? Didn't get that done. So that's a good thing to know. But at least I know now that I can install these, attach my hoses, and figure out my length, which is a good thing. Because the short ones, it makes perfect sense as I'm sort of playing with this, that the shorter arms go in, and they sort of go. Then this belongs on the other side. This is not the correct one. No, maybe it is the correct one. It goes down like this. It could go it could go either way, but that's where the cables go. They die into that piece. So if that was up in that position, those hoses have to be able to do that. So that is interesting. It might change my thought process in terms of what I'm putting there, because if I have these parked, I have to see just exactly what angle is going to be the correct angle. So I've still got some stuff to work out there, if you can believe that. But that's okay. That's how you figure things out. But I'm glad I did. So I know that my hoses here are not motor related. They're actually manipulator arm, and they're probably hydraulics. It's probably hydraulic fluid lines is what they're supposed to be. So there you go. Okay. So I can now attach these and sleep comfortably knowing that that's where they belong. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print up the rest of my manipulator arms. I'm going to attach my lights and run my cables, and then I'm going to start to install the interior of this cockpit. So lots to do, but I think this was this is well, we'll see where we are. I'll check time and see where we are in terms of this update. Maybe we'll keep going, maybe we'll call it. So I'll take a look at time, continue to work on getting some things printed, starting to work on getting some of my wiring in, and you'll see how we're doing that. I won't just do it and say, look at me, aren't I clever? We'll actually look at that happening. Okay. I'm going to install these front lights. I have to drop them through into the cavity that's in the sort of the behind the yoke where he drives, or steers, I should say. I'm a little reluctant to put them on, but I got to put them on because I need to get all my wiring in for this before I can start putting in the control panels. And so the only issue for me is knocking something, of course. That's always my big concern. And I've got two going into one again. So, you know, it always makes it a little trickier when you do that. I could put two holes directly in front of each other, but you know, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to give them a little twist like this, and then I'm going to insert my shrink tubing into this hole. This drill bit works perfectly with this tubing, he says. There we go. So we just get that in, and then what I do is I feed everything into the one tube. Oh no, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do, Phil, because you're doing this on camera, you're not thinking, is I'm going to put my short piece and then my two pieces, and then we'll connect those. Okay, so let me remove that for a second. Let me give it a snip. Reinstall that. Come on, cooperate. Okay, there we go. Then, this is always the awkward part, because you got to sort of figure out how much of the hosage you need. And then, okay, that's pretty good. Don't you love my measuring technique? Oh dear. The wonderful thing about when you're putting lighting in kits like this on this scale is, you know, you can have an awful lot of fun with it, getting it all detailed out. And that's the bit that I really do. I do enjoy it very, very much, because it's not only is it really super satisfying, but you get a wonderful, you get a really wonderful look. So that's why I enjoy it. I spent quite a bit of time on this update, I know, on lighting, but there's an awful lot of lighting. There's nine of these suckers. So okay, that looks good. That looks good. Let's do a quick check here. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to trim these just a little bit. Looks like I can glue that and then have it just come around like that. Okay, so these are a little tight, a little long. Let's do a little trimmage. Now, I'm not too worried because we're going to use some of the liquid rubber to connect the dots here, and it'll all clean up quite nicely. It's interesting because, you know, when you build on camera, it is a very strange thing to have to do, because when we're by ourselves doing our thing, we don't have to think about, or at least, you know, I'm one of these people, I can't help myself. It's my producer mentality. I need to make sure that everything is sort of has, you know, is entertaining. I can't help myself. It's just how I was trained, you know, and who I am as a person. But so I really admire these builders who just show hands. They don't go on camera. But you know what? I do this on camera because I enjoy the camaraderie, and I hope you guys do too. It's fun to hang with you guys, and it's fun to know that you're hanging with me. So I really do. I do appreciate that. And you know, maybe as I learn, you'll learn, and we'll all learn together. You know, it's one of those things. It's just every time you do something like this, or you have experience from a previous build that you can call on, then that's nice too. All the experience matters. There we go. Okay, that worked out quite well. Now what I like about what I've done is the hoses are not kinked. So that worked out really well, and I'll show you how we're going to clean that up in just a second here. But I like that they're not kinked. If they were any longer on this side, it would be too much of a kink. Okay, so let me install these. Like that. Let's make sure we got the angle correct, and we do. Okay. So then now what we've got is we've got some of this liquid tape that I use. Now this one's a little old, so it's a little long in the tooth, but it works. And you kind of manipulate it here. It's rubber, so it's going to want to dry up on you. it works. And by the time it dries up, you get a really nice connection. You kind of just gotta let it do its thing. And let me, oh, well, that worked out really well. So that's how you make that work, and you get a good connection. And so then I'm going to feed these wires under the baseboard here, well, the front control panel, and then under it and down into the floor, and that'll be another set of wires that I've taken care of. So there you go. I think we'll call it for this, believe it or not, I think we're going to call it for this update, because we have been going for quite a while, my friends. We have been going for quite a while. And that's a long update. I can't believe that these updates, I mean, it's just, well, it's a lot of work, obviously. You know, this kit is an awful lot of work, and I don't want to rush it. And I want you to see the amount of work that goes into this. So I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so there you go. We're coming together. The top is looking really spiffy. Super happy with that. Here she is, and we've obviously done all of that work, all of that gackage, and I'll put this on here just sort of for a final to close this up, so we can see that we are coming together. We're really coming together, and this is the second update. So in the third installment, we will finally get the interior in. We'll get the engines on, and I'm also hoping that I have a base to show you from my friends at 3D Fig Lab. It's printing right now. So keeping my fingers crossed. There you go. So thank you for continuing to support me and the channel and all of your kind words. Hey, Happy New Year, everybody. Please be healthy, be safe. And as always, I wish all of you be well. And of course, build something. And I'll see you next year. Take care, everybody. Be well.